Hi everyone, my name is Scarlette Bustos and I'm with a nonprofit called the Ring of Democracy. Ring like a boxing ring, democracy as in everybody deserves a voice. And we are a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization. And we are here to basically give you, the voter, more information on what the heck is being talked about on these ballots. With me, I have a couple proponents for Measure D. Would you mind introducing yourselves?
Of course. So my name is Jasmit Singh. I am the Vice President of Sacramento City Unified School District. And I actually live right here in Area 2, which is a few blocks away from Elmhurst. So I'm in East Sac. And I'll pass it over to my friend over here.
Yeah, I'm Nathaniel Browning, and I am volunteering and helping run the effort for Vote Yes on Measure D, because it's just a really important endeavor that we pass Measure D to bring more bond dollars into the Sacramento City Unified School District facilities and make upgrades in order to ensure that we're providing facilities that educate students for the future.
Great, thanks so much. So is that what the verbiage says? I mean, can you tell me kind of in a nutshell what is Measure D about?
Yeah, so Measure D is a bond measure that will be on our November ballot. It is a $543 million bond measure, specifically intended to support the repair and upgrading of our facilities here in Sacramento City Unified School District. I think a little bit of background is helpful. So for those who don't know, we are one of the oldest, if not the oldest school district west of the Mississippi, which means our buildings are on average 60 or 70 years old. So if you think about school buildings that are from the 1960s, you can imagine that they're not ready to prepare our students today for the future that we currently live in, right? So the whole intention of this measure is to upgrade some of our buildings that are crumbling, that need the attention that's been so desperately needed for the last couple of years. And to be honest, it's still just a big drop in the bucket, but it's a drop. Our need as a district overall is a little over $4.5 billion. And for those folks who don't know, we cannot actually use the budget that we have at the school district currently. None of that budget money can go towards buildings like that. Our budget is for our students. It's intended for the classrooms. This is the only way, one of the only ways that we can actually improve our physical structures in the district. So this is $500 million towards that goal of $4.5 billion. And the whole point of this is to do something with support from community and also not raise taxes. This does not raise any taxes. It's a continuation. With Measure E and I lapsing from before, we have the opportunity to continue this bond in order to keep fixing our school sites and keep improving the outcomes for our students.
Great. Can you tell me a little bit more about the projects that this is going to support? Are there certain projects that you all are advocating for?
Yeah, so the Board of Education, Member Singh and his colleagues passed a resolution in May that outlined some of the projects that would be included as part of Measure D. And with that, actually, I'd love to hand it over to Jasjit because there is a couple different high-profile projects on there.
So, speaking for my area, a lot of folks are familiar with Miwok Middle School, which used to be known as Sutter Middle School. Sutter Middle School is up for a full rebuild. It needs to be taken down and rebuilt. There's no amount of retrofitting or fixing that will be able to build that school back to what it needs to be at. So that's going to require a full rebuild. That's going to be an opportunity for East Sacramento to have a brand new middle school to serve, and we have literally 4 or 5 elementary schools that feed into Miwok. So that's like a very prominent school site that I'm excited about, that we'll be able to kind of build from the ground up and build with the type of facilities and needs of today's kids, right? When we're talking about the ability to have sites that have all the tech needs that you need on your school site, to have performing arts, to have sports facilities. I've been to the school site multiple times. It needs redesigns that include safer access for parents and families to actually make it to the school. These are heavy intersection areas. So just imagine the amount of excitement there would be around rebuilding an entire middle school that serves such a large part of the Sacramento area. And additionally, this funding will go towards upgrading our performing arts centers. The performing arts centers, especially as a lot of propositions have passed recently that are supposed to bring in art funding into our schools, we want to be able to actually have the sites where all that proposition money that came in is actually going to good use. We're using this to hire teachers, hire music teachers. Well, they also need facilities that actually can showcase the students' work, right? So as you can imagine, the excitement around upgrading some of our older performing arts centers with lights. You know, I'm sitting here, I'm seeing all this cool equipment. Imagine if our students actually have access to this. A lot of these things can just not be done with simple fixes. It needs real money and real investment, and that's what this bond measure would do, would actually upgrade our sites to the point where not only our students, but the entire community would have access to these performing arts centers to really bring the focus on arts and music back into our communities and for our young people.
In addition, we also have identified a few other sites. Rosemont High School, for example, it was built about 25 years ago, so it is a newer building. But part of us pointing that building out as one of the projects is we want to get ahead of deferred maintenance before it starts deteriorating. And so being really smart with the taxpayer dollars in that end is another component. A couple other school sites, Elder Creek Elementary is noted on there as well. In addition, we have other projects. One of the main focus of the Measure D, if passed, is HVAC systems. We know what we've learned from COVID. We also know that making sure proper ventilation in classrooms not only helps them stay healthy, but it helps them focus on their academics. And that is something that really impacts them where they spend most of their day. And so when we're talking about the purpose of schools and school districts is to educate our students. And so we're really looking at the right mix of what we can do around the overall facility, but very specifically what we can do where the classrooms are and where the students spend most of their time in order to help project them and propel them into future of college and career.
Can I just add, I think what I'm hearing, and I think it's important to reiterate, is this bond measure is supporting schools throughout the district, right? I think I always see myself as someone who represents the entire Sacramento City Unified School District, not just the area that I'm elected in. And part of that is being prepared to invest in schools that need the most support, while also finding ways to maintain your school sites that you have in your own areas, in your own neighborhoods. So some of the places that he's listing off, you're noticing, like, we're talking about Rosemont High School, we're talking about East Sacramento, we're talking about South Sacramento, we're talking about Oak Park. That way we're actually finding a way to find equitable support systems for all our children. So that way, like, really, we're actually investing in every single kid. And we have 40,000 students, right? So this is an opportunity to invest and touch all 40,000 students in a way that allows them to actually see support from the district, support from the community, and support from other folks, even folks who are no longer in the school system, right? This measure is going to require Sacramentans to come together and really give and support the kids that they see every single day, right? Even folks whose kids have probably been out of the district for 20, 30 years, right? You still want to see them thrive. These are tomorrow's young people, these are tomorrow's leaders, and we want to put them in a position to succeed.
Thank you for that. It sounds like these are big undertakings. How are these going to affect the neighborhoods? How is this going to affect property values, say?
You know, positively. It's just simply updating and upgrading a school site has a huge impact on how students feel about the school site, but also how the community and the neighbors feel about the school site. So you can imagine buildings that are well kept, buildings that are well built, actually raise property values. They actually create pride and ownership around school sites. It creates a sense of belonging, and also creates a sense of community, right? Because at the end of the day, one thing that we still have in this city, which is beautiful, is we're an old city, so our schools are actually built inside neighborhoods. We're not We are not a urban sprawl community. We're not brand new neighborhoods being built in the middle of nowhere. We are a city, so people need to actually be around school sites. Our facilities should be places that people enjoy, that people care for collectively. That's why we have community gardens. So it's just a unique situation in today's world where cities and towns are expanding. We're actually trying to build in the same places where some of these school sites have been for sometimes 70, 80, 90 years. Right, so it's an opportunity for property values obviously to rise, but also for neighbors to see positive impacts of brand new builds and upgrades to the school sites.
Yeah, thank you. And what I would add to that is last March 2023, there was a peer-reviewed study that came out, and I can provide the hyperlink for that after the fact, that showed how property values increase when bond dollars are spent at schools and making those improvements just based on curb appeal, based on athletic access and such like that to those neighborhoods. In addition to that, the district facilities department has a mantra that school facilities planning is neighborhood planning. And so that mantra is carried out throughout all of the designs and construction projects that we're doing currently and look forward to continue doing with Measure D as well. Knowing that it is a community thing and schools are often the center of that community, and we want to provide that as a community hub.
Thank you. It sounds like this is something that's going to bring together the entire community. Can you talk a little bit about nonprofits and non-governmental organizations and any available partnerships that might be available with Measure D?
So I'll say generally, folks should know that facilities at school sites are rentable, right? And oftentimes rentable at a lower rate for nonprofits and community organizations, right? And we already have some really great partnerships with community centers and other nonprofit organizations. Now you can imagine that some of our facilities are older. So now if we have brand new facilities with upgraded interiors, properly working HVAC, and tech to go along with it, we are actually going to create the type of facilities that folks are going to want to rent even more, right? And that automatically brings in community partners, it brings in nonprofit organizations. So we want to be able to say that our facilities are top notch and our facilities are the type of facilities that community organizations actually want to rent, right? And those are pretty great rates from my understanding that we provide, because these are still neighborhood schools, these are public schools, and we want to make sure that access to these public schools is available to our nonprofit partners as well.
In addition, we have a lot of nonprofit partners currently with the district. For example, us being the Farm to Fork Capital. I'll highlight the school district has a partnership with the Food Literacy Center, where they provide after-school programming and even during day programming in some cases. And so a lot of what the district has been doing with the renovations and modernizations and rebuilds that have been going on currently is we're making sure that there's induction ovens, for example, in a community space. So then we're able to provide a place where those nonprofits can come in and provide classes to students, to external community members coming in. And just being able to provide that space for those types of activities to happen.
Great. So not every project is perfect, right? What are some potential challenges that you might foresee for implementation of Measure D?
So we're going to try to answer this like this. We have a need of 4.5 billion, and this is not 4.5 billion, right? So part of this is actually making sure that as we go through the process and use our facilities master plan in identifying sites and making sure we get to those sites, a lot of it is going to take time. I think it's less about the implementation. I think we're going to get things done, and we have, it's like, when you show me your homework, like show me the work that you did, we have that. We have football stadiums, we have updated facilities, we have 4 or 5 brand new schools that are either built or about to open next year for our community and our students. It's really about when it's going to get done. And I have no doubt that this is going to get done, but it's going to be a process, right? We still have to finish out the funding that's finishing out for Measure H, and then we're going to get to Measure D, hopefully, and the community passes it. So it's less about implementation, but more about the long game. You know, this is 543 million. We have an overall need of 4.5 billion. So less implementation, more how do we get to every single site and consider every single need that we have for our district, which again, one of the oldest in the country.
Yes, this is no small task, especially for Sacramento City Unified School District. Thank you for your work on the school district.
Appreciate it.
Can you tell me, since this is just a drop in the bucket, as you say, what are the priorities that that you foresee for the school district, specifically for Measure D?
So for me, it's really the upgrading of these sites is very specific. It's not just that we need brand new buildings because we need brand new buildings.
Sure.
We need brand new buildings because it all needs to be tied back to student outcomes. We need our kids today to be prepared for the world that exists today and the future, right? That includes preparing our school sites to have like proper career technical education, right? Preparing them for a world of college, university, or something else. What else can we do? How else can we prepare them alternatively for a career that possibly doesn't include college or university? We need spaces. We need actual sites and locations that are well thought out, that are well planned, that take all of that into account. And that's my vision. I need to make sure that these facilities are actually serving the needs of our students today and for the future. So that's my end goal. It's not just about a shiny building. It's about having a shiny building with all the things inside to make sure that we're actually improving our literacy rates, that we're actually improving our students' math outcomes, that we're actually improving graduation rates, and all that is tied back to creating great young people for tomorrow to lead our city in the future.
And I think in order to do the bold vision that Jasjit just outlined, we need to make sure that those new construction projects are flexible, because the kindergartners that came in this year, we don't know what their job market is going to look like once they graduate high school or graduate college. And so we need to be able to make sure we're building facilities to last another 50 to 70 years and being able to be flexible in order to support whatever the job market may look like in that time span as well.
Good. What about after-school programs, too? Can we talk a little bit about how that affects it?
Yeah, so I can give you examples. I know that for the last couple of years, especially coming out of COVID, there's been an increased need for after-school programs, right? And we have a great team that works on our community engagement and after-school programs here at Sac City Unified. Part of the need has been space, right? So after-school programs require children to be in a classroom space. Now, when you only have limited classroom spaces to work with, you oftentimes are having kids in cafeterias, in a couple of classrooms. Then you also want kids outside because you want to get them in that outside space. And then we're looking at 100+ degree temperatures in Sacramento all the time, and you think about how hot the summer has been. So it all comes back to imagine what actual upgraded facilities with properly running HVAC, with the type of tech inside the classroom, comfortable seating, properly functioning electrical work and everything else. Imagine what that will do for after-school programming. We're going to create an environment where folks not only feel comfortable keeping their kids after school at our school sites, but also those kids feel comfortable at those school sites and want to actually create a world where they can seamlessly go from the classroom to after-school programming and feel like, wow, this is just a continuation of what I'm doing. It's learning, but it's fun, and it's after school. That requires, again, the type of facility that meets the needs of our students. And sometimes we don't have that. Oftentimes we have great folks who are working in this space. We have great after-school leaders. The folks who are working with their kids are wonderful, but they are also limited by the type of location that they're at. And again, some of these spaces, our school sites have limited amount of classrooms. They are limited by the amount of space that they're built in. As neighborhoods have been built around school sites, the school sites themselves have been limited on how much they can actually expand. So we have to get smarter, right, with how we build these new facilities. And, you know, I'm not the facilities person, but I know there's always ideas on building up, building outwards. How does all that look? And thankfully, we have the type of team that's going to take a look at every single option for our kids.
Great.
I think your question about how that supports after-school programming is excellent. It really highlights kind of where we're at as a school district around facilities. Again, our facilities are 50 to 70 years old. That was before personal computers even. And so then that was before, after-school programming was really a thing as well. And so the ability for bond measures such as Measure D to come in and address some of those changes in the facilities, so there's enough outlets so everyone can charge their laptop. So there's dedicated space to after-school programming. So there's flex labs, so if after-school programming wants to push in and do another project in another classroom, that's possible. But then also reimagining the playground and the play space and providing shade with trees and nooks in the playground so folks can explore and read books and such like that. And so being able to take a bond measure like Measure D and reimagine what our 70-year-old facilities look like to better support what we have going on now and what we have going on 50 years from now.
I've been having some good conversations with people who are running for school board, and they're talking about the need for tutoring as well. And so I can imagine that plugs and things like that would be not just beneficial, but necessary.
Yeah.
Because a lot of kids have fallen behind during COVID, during the pandemic. Literacy rates, talking about math rates. We've got an uphill battle. And so it sounds like this is something that would support after school tutoring and things like that. Is that about right?
Yeah, I mean, everything in ACES, like our after-school programming and other programming it's not just, it's not a daycare center, right? It is a place of learning. So these are skilled folks who are actually helping students with homework, helping them get through their afternoon, addressing questions and concerns. And again, if we have the type of space where they can actually have an ability to sit down and read. And some of the things that Nathaniel's bringing up, like these cool things about like finding nooks, right, on the playground. It's part of like that thing, like you don't know where do kids feel comfortable? Someone might feel comfortable sitting in a chair and reading, someone might feel comfortable sitting under a tree, right? We're trying to go back to that space where like, how do we meet the needs of our kids, right? And part of catching up is like, can we help them catch up after school? Can we have kids who are actually, well fed, that we're taking care of them, that they have the type of space in which they feel comforted and warm, and they have a teacher in the classroom that's permanent. All that will lead to a kid actually learning, and then we actually start addressing all these things. But having the facility to do that is the exciting piece. And if Measure D can help actually create a child that is more whole and more prepared and more willing to learn, then the measure is doing its job.
Yeah. So we definitely want to make sure that kids are feeling welcomed and in a nurturing environment. But a lot of parents have been concerned about safety at school. How would Measure D affect that?
Yeah, we're currently focused on that as a school district in all total. So it starts with a couple different layers of security at a school site. A few years ago, the school district changed classroom door locks in the process of putting fencing around all of our sites. But then in addition to that, putting multiple layers of fencing as well. Single point of entry, so requiring visitors, even family members, to come into the office as the only way to get on campus for, again, additional layer of security. We understand that it's really important, especially nowadays, to have those multiple layers of security. But then it's also after hours, when students go home, we can then open up the exterior gate and allow community members to come in and walk the track or play on the field without having to worry about anything that may happen in the tighter realm of the buildings as well. And so then we're really going back to the school facilities planning as neighborhood planning and making sure that we have that ability to have our schools be a part of that community as an asset.
Great. So what are opponents saying, or have you heard of any opponents to this particular measure?
So we have no opponents from our understanding to Measure G, and that's great to hear because it sounds really difficult to oppose. This is no tax raises. We understand the type of economy we're in. We understand the needs of the community, and that's why it was very intentional to find the type of bond measure that we can put on the ballot that does not hurt our working families, that allows folks to keep the tax rate from our end where it currently is, while also making significant improvements and updates for their kids and the future that their kids are going to see. So there's no opponents at the moment, and we're hoping it stays that way.
Yeah, sounds like everybody's on the side of the kids on this one.
Yeah.
Where can people find out more information about Measure D?
He remembers the website right off the top of
Yeah.
his head. He's going to say it.
Vote yes on MeasureD.com.
Vote yes on MeasureD.com.
Yep.
Great. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you coming out and having this conversation with us. And you, the voter, if you'd like more information on the Ring of Democracy, it's theringofdemocracy.org. And you can find this on Access Sacramento and also on our YouTube and Instagram and Facebook. All right. Thanks so much
Thank you.
for
Thank
coming in.
you.
Really appreciate you.
Yeah.